So to continue with where we left off, it's half-baked. I don't like leaving things half-baked. What's the problem? It's okay. It's having a rest. I also had that. I remember an incident at Durban High School. It was an incident that happened with the previous headmaster. Unfortunately, I wasn't at DHS when he was the headmaster, because he was, by all accounts, an amazing human being. Had a deep understanding. So there was somebody at the school who was a very gifted tennis player. And the Natal Championships were being played, and there certainly weren't any schoolboys in the team, but he was that caliber that he was in the team, but a schoolboy. So now the moral decision, do I bunk school and take the consequences? Or do I ask permission and get denied? So he just attended and won. Or came second, but extremely well. So on Monday morning at assembly, will John Sutherford be in my office after this meeting? So I've just invented the name. And he said, what is this I hear about you bunking school? You know what that means? Yes, sir. It means 6. Yes, sir. So he pulled out his whip, his cane, he's bent down, and he gave him 6. Bang, bang, and he knew how to cane. And just as this chap was leaving the office, he said, I'm not finished with you. So you're still recovering. And he says, he's not finished with me. So, yes, sir. He said, very well done on that tennis championship. And he has a check, I don't know for how much, 500 Rand. You buy the best racket that you can get. There's a very good moral in that. And we all know it. How do we encourage somebody to carry on? Is it not by rewarding them? Your little boy has done something that's out of the box, which is aligned with the tribal values. But you reward that. Well done. Has a chocolate. It's in the culture of the waking dream. You reward whatever you want to encourage. And society will penalize you for what is not desirable. And the mind can make use of that in various ways. If I find that trying to find work with whatever I can bring to the party is not as profitable as begging, because in begging I make more money. In other words, it rewards, this activity gives me a reward. I can bring home food. And whatever you reward, you enhance, you encourage. So when you see something, like someone is making a story out of something and you feel pity, you can reward that or you can penalize it. Do you want that behavior to continue for his good? If you want that to continue, it's not in his good. So is it good to reward that behavior? No. If anything, a reprimand. Come on, do something with your life. But if you reward it, you encourage it. And this is the difference between somebody who does good and a compulsive do-gooder. And if you revisit that Harajan lady, that one there, is being penalized. How else is he going to wake up from whatever habit led him to that? It's that is also behind that culture of detachment. That one has got lessons to learn. If you short circuit those lessons, if you don't allow karma to run its course there, because your do-gooding can't handle it, then you become goody two-shoes. And you think you're so sociable and you're doing the right thing and you're rewarding the wrong attitude. It's okay not to work so hard. You're okay, relax. But if you let life take its course, then from karma we can learn what's not appropriate. And that Arajan lady, it was just so deeply in her genes what that Indian culture is. That's his business, it's his karma, it's his learning. I don't have to be the good one and go and rescue him. That's not there, the do-gooder. There's only one that does good, and that is Namaste. I greet God within you. There's the call. Now, here is where that phrase was coined in the early days, pulling down the hard truth. If I've read that detachment's a good thing, but I'm in the wrong arena, I'm in an arena where goody two-shoes is very important. And I'm reading some book that says detachment. I want to be that. I want to be detached. And then at a pool party, one of your friends' little babies falls into the pool. Detachment. You won't be able to. Before you know what's hit you, you're in there, boots and all, helping. In other words, you can't pull down a high truth into a lower arena if you're not ready to receive it. You can't pull down a high truth like detachment. It's either in you as what you've arrived at in your transition through all of these lives, or you're pulling down a high truth, and then it becomes a problem. So if I compulsively give to everybody who begs, what behavior are you rewarding? Because whatever you reward, you're going to increase. It's the other side of the coin. I say that's the other side of the coin of social work. Yeah, I need, and you give and you give and you give. You've heard of that expression? Don't give a man a fish, teach him how to use a fishing rod. You're not giving him a fish, but he's hungry. So what? He's hungry. He's got to learn something. Get off his denim jeans. If you keep rewarding this, next life it's even deeper in the swamp because it worked. It brought me income. And if it works, it's got utility. You've rewarded it, you enhance it, it grows. When your little boy does well at whatever, you reward that to encourage it to go deeper and further. Now you're also doing that to the beggar at the robot. You reward him, go deeper and further. This is the moral dilemma now. Because if I've heard of these high words, and if I'm supposed to be generous and caring for my neighbor, which is also biblical, then it puts me into a position where, yeah. So if I can listen to that other maxim, unto thyself be true. Can't be true to anybody else or anything else but to your own self. Where am I? If my nature is calling me to jump in and help that wada, then I can't avoid that. Because if I avoid that, conscience will work on me. Not in a way of truth, but in a way that the mind works. I can't hear you. Sorry. I'm a beggar. I need some money. That's all right. You've jumped in already, so.
I'm saying, isn't that then guilt? I know in your nature, so we all have nature. We're born
just
with,
keep the sound system reasonably
sorry,
constant.
we're all born with like different
Tendencies.
natures, tendencies.
Vasanas, yes.
But yes, so if I'm hearing you correctly, you were saying if that's in your nature, and if you don't follow through, then you're going to feel. But isn't that then to actually stop that tendency? Isn't that where the discipline comes in? Or I don't. Because how do we change the tanker then?
How do you?
Change the tanker if you're not conscious.
Is there a problem if you're true to your own sense of values? If you're doing what's according to your code of ethics and your belief system, could there be a problem there?
Yes and no. Yes and no. Because.
Where did you learn this and no from?
Because then how do we ever change our vasanas? We have to first be aware of them.
Can you change your vasanas with all this free will you have? Or can you predispose yourself to the possibility?
Yes.
Okay.
But you first have to be aware that there is a vasana or a tendency or a rabbit hole that you keep falling down.
And that awareness is very important. It's called consciousness that you are. You want to liberate some of that so it doesn't succumb to the limitations of habits. Going on remote, beggar equals handout. There must be some discernment. Look into those eyes. If you can see just deep Tamas, or you can see somebody who's really, you can read, well, certainly you can get some idea of what's on the other side of the windscreen. And then it depends on what is prompted in you to thine own self be true. Because if I can never be true to that center, how will I ever be true on the outside? And on Tuesday, this is what I see in that one. I'm just exaggerating it a bit. But if I'm true to myself, it's not different to put your own oxygen mask on first. And then maybe you'll be able to really help your fellow passengers. And putting your own mask on means if I'm not true to me, there's something in me that's going to be doing that. But if I've done it according to what is true for me, not for him.
But when you're talking about being true to me, you're talking about being true to the small I, that part of your nature.
Where are we?
Yeah, no, but
Okay, we're in the waking dreams.
yes.
So it's being true to the I that you have access to, which is the mental I in the beginning, in the waking dream.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have access to the other I yet. That's happening there. I'm between these two.
Okay, so to get there,
Which you can't, yeah. It will happen by grace, yeah.
but to be aware of the promptings, maybe. Because if we're just in tamas, then that we're never going to.
That's why I talk of clean rajas. I don't talk of rajas, but clean rajas is a goal. In the waking dream, clean rajas is the best goal to have. In the waking dream, clean rajas means being there in a clean way with your body, mind, spirit. Rajas means movement, action, for other and for yourself. Whatever is clean rajas, as opposed to rajas, which is just all about me. But clean rajas is the effort expended for other, not always centered on me. Okay, now while you digest that, has anybody else got something simmering here? Mm-hmm. No. It's a new take. Take time. But voice your recognition and voice your opposition. Okay. Yeah.
If I believe in destiny,
Mm-hmm.
and I happen to come across, let's say I'm on a walk and nobody around, but there is a person who has fallen and has a broken leg. Is it not that I was guided to that spot to help? And when I see that, I surely wouldn't just say hello and walk on. It's,
Hi, ma'am. How are you doing? I'm fine. How are you doing? I'm fine.
so we are guided into certain situations.
Do we choose those situations?
No, that's
So then?
then we should act the way we think is proper.
If you're led to that, is it for the purpose that your mind has made of that? Oh, I've been brought to this person, therefore, and the mind goes clickety click, and then the wallet comes out. Who said you have to be there in that way?
Yeah.
That person crossed my path. You didn't choose.
Yes.
Now what? To thine own self be true is the best way to approach this. If you believe that you were led here and you need to give, then so be it. you give, because if you don't, it'll work on you.
Yeah. But it's not that I just give anybody. There has to be something I feel. This guy is really,
Be true to yourself, yes.
yeah, this
Not
guy,
to others' laws and rules and norms.
Yeah, yeah.
And social etiquette. You know, all those things that hem you in the dream.
yeah, because it's not a coincidence that you meet a situation.
Yes, but also it's not coincidence what prompts you to be done there. Don't take a fixed idea in there. When I see somebody in need, I must give.
No.
Hmm?
Yeah, I agree.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Because in some situations, somebody will walk up to you with a, and you can just see this is actually walking Tamas, and you're rewarding it.
Yeah. But they also harass
And they'll
you.
take it straight to the shabin, because you can smell it on, I'm just saying,
Mm.
there's different ways
Yeah.
that you can see. You don't reward this behavior. If you can see clean eyes, a good expression, he's happy, he's trying to help, he wants to offer to wash your car. You can just see it. It's clean, it's rajas.
That's right.
He's not sitting in tamas, so you don't reward tamas.
But you take a few seconds to feel into what is this, and then if you feel that's
There's lots of rudra
rabbit,
going on here like this. I'm just
it's
telling you what you're not seeing.
when you realize that it's just, yeah, give me something. It's also the way they take it. That's yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. No, for me, what was said in the previous session, that you just don't help. I thought, really? If God has guided you to a situation where somebody needs really help, you obviously will help.
So don't drive into a location, because you'll just give to everybody and everyone. I'm pulling your leg now. Okay. Maybe I'm led into that place to help a specific person, to arrange a specific something. Not for it to be turned into something else.
Yeah, no, I totally agree.
Hmm.
I don't know why I'm stuck on this, Patrick, but I am. To thine own self be true. There's also what you always talk about is your 3/10. So the own self, which is a small I because we're in the waking dream, is
Can I just stop you there?
yeah.
It doesn't preclude having access subliminally to a higher truth. It just might not be conscious to me. So there might be something, you can call it intuition, premonition, but something in a higher aspect other than the thinking mind that is wanting a certain direction. And only you will know when that still small voice is talking to you. And then it doesn't matter what the rules are. To thine own small voice be true, would be another way of saying it. Because that small voice in my book is none other than conscience. Conscience.
And conscience is very important, but conscience can also, you could have a guilty conscience, and it could be leading you I'm trying. What
Guilt
I'm trying.
consciousness. Guilt
Yes.
consciousness is not conscience.
Shins. Mm.
Okay, consciousness is not conscience.
Yeah.
If using that word as it's used in society, he's got no conscience, means he's got no goodness, heart, empathy, whatever you want.
And I'm probably nitpicking now, but I'm coming back to the tanker and the tiki. So to turn that tanker, and yes, I do, everything that has come to me has come through grace, totally. But what is my part in turning that tanker?
Well, only you will know. To thine own self be true. If you want to pull it hard to port, then pull it hard to port. Don't pull down a hard truth of what the captain said. If he's put you in charge of the helm.
What I'm trying to say is it sounds like almost, which I know that just briefly sounded like you'll get there through grace, nothing through nothing else. But
no, you're not. Okay, I never said that. That's what you made of it, yeah.
Okay. So that's where probably I'm stuck. It's
Bhagavan said the immense effort required for this journey. Immense. And that does away with tamas straight away. And he said sitting in stillness and meditation requires enormous energy and attention. Because when you're completing a cycle in the daily round, you use a part of your mind. But to remain at the stillness of the center in the way Bhagavan meant it, it's not an aspect of your mind that's engaged. Mm-hmm. It's your full being. It's intense effort, to quote him. And if it's not, then it can slip very easily into tamas. And the feel might be the same, it's still. And that's because I've pulled down a hard truth, and I believe that I am that.
I suppose what I'm asking is what I said is awareness of falling down the rabbit hole, and then eventually saying, no, I'm not going to fall down this rabbit hole anymore. I'm not going to follow this, where that little bit of self-discipline also can help take one out of tamas into hopefully clean rajas eventually. So,
okay, do you want to put that question in different words? Not quite sure how to handle it. Let it cook a bit. Okay. Put it on low heat and we can talk later. You can pass it back.
Patrick, I don't know if they can hear, but I had an uncomfortable tea time.
You had
an uncomfortable tea time.
An uncomfortable tea time.
Within myself. You know, the conversation was left me with a sense of, oh my heavens, but this is like undermining one of my basic, I suppose, belief systems, core values, the idea of detachment. And the conversation has been absolutely fascinating around this. And I feel a bit more comfortable now when you bring it back to unto thine own self be true. That makes sense to me. And the idea of a clean rajas makes so much sense to me.
Clean rajas is there to help.
That's the striving, yeah.
Because the rajas is a doer.
Yeah.
It evokes the karta in me.
Yes.
But you get rajas, which is self-interest, or in my language, clean rajas, which is action directed at helping others.
That's it. So, thank you.
Clean rajas. And to show how important this was to Appa, he took it upon himself to do whatever we could to improve the life conditions of 23 villages surrounding our ashram. They were so impoverished They had no value for themselves. They'd lost all interest in trying to work. Because when you're in Tamas from hopelessness and helplessness and poverty, it's very hard to get out of. So he said, what is needed here is they need to believe in themselves again, that they can make a difference, that they can help. In other words, to lift them from stillness into action. Now, isn't that the exact opposite of what we expect an Advaita teacher to be doing? He wants to take people from stillness into action. But that's what's called for. It's the antithesis of the return journey. And myself and a few others volunteered to be there with them before morning meditation and in between the two sessions to work with them, to show them how to become self-sufficient with their own vegetables. They'd never thought about it. Because when you're in Tamas, the whole world is black. You can't. It's dramatized by I can't. Clean Rajas is I can. And then again, the magical I can't. But you within me can. It's a very different I can't. But to get them from the I can't of Tamas into the I can of clean Rajas, you've got to fire up that ego. You've got to build the ego. So when I couldn't get these bean planters to break out of this herd instinct, I would show them how to raise the earth. So when the rains come and the floods came, and how to fertilize and how to put poles in and how to string beans. Do you understand now? Because I have to go and meditate. Yes, we understand. And you'd come back after the morning with Appa, and you'd see all 5 of them in a huddle, yapping away, still with row 1. Nothing had been done because they're social creatures and they're in Tamas. So I thought, Jere Manere, I don't know what to do here. This is very unfamiliar to me. So I made a unilateral decision. Didn't ask anybody. I said, instead of you getting whatever it was, so many rupees a month for working, when you're not, you're rewarding not working by continuing to pay them, and you enhance that habit. I said, I'm going to penalize you. Let's say it was 50 rupees a day. I would say, Abdul, I want you to do these 3 rows. And if you do more, that's fine. But it'll be 25 rupees a row. Now, they've normally got 50, let's say, and they can do 3 rows. And they do know that their daughter at home who's sick needs medication and they can't afford medication. So now you've got a chance to work on establishing an ego. If you're in Tamas, there's no ego there. You just flat tire. So if you do that, the reward will be 25 and 25 and 25, however many you do. And I came back the next day and man, it was humming. And then they were paid. In other words, their action was rewarded. And if you want to enhance it, you have to reward it. And what you don't want, you penalize. And then what came out of that is when they actually proudly produced a crop of their own food. It never dreamt this was possible. And the whole motto of Shanti Malai was help through self-help. In other words, clean rajas to take you out of apathy and put you also into rajas, the karta, the doer. And somebody who's clever would say, oh, you indulging the ego. You have to have the ego to get out of tamas. Where is this I can, I will, I want coming from? It's from ambition. Ah, but that's ego. Now you're pulling down a hard truth and you say, just be still. And you end up with a flat tire. Okay, still cooking, eh? Okay. And what comes out of that? That tamas they've been in for centuries because of poverty. When they suddenly see they can. They've moved from I can't to I can. And that's ego. It's the mental aspect of I. And the ego is a very, very good thing. Until it has reached expiry. Then it becomes lethal. It's just like the booster rocket. Booster rocket that takes that shuttle into space is the most powerful rocket because it has to overcome tamas. Tamas, gravitational pull, is a metaphor for tamas. It wants to hold the rocket down. So you need massive power to overcome tamas. Everything is a metaphor because as it is outwardly, so it is inwardly. And then when that rocket is through the heaviest gravitational field and is free of tamas, then you can jettison the ego. And NASA will say, stand by to jettison. The very thing that brought me here, you've now got to say goodbye to. And maybe with a bit of nostalgia, when NASA said, stand by for countdown to jettison, you've got to say goodbye to your best friend who pulled you through. Because you remember what happened to Apollo 13, the booster rocket burst into flame and everybody died, but you brought me home. Mother of all rockets. Thank you, thank you, thank you, ego. But now it's needed to be let go of. And you press the button and you see it is falling away. And you're in free flight, which is Sattva. So all of this is a metaphor. And if I get perennially stuck in, is it right or is it wrong, can you just see what the trap is? It's mind. Mind is the problem. And if I'm in doubt as I approach a robot and I look into those eyes, then Papa would say, if in doubt, give the benefit to the other. Give. Err on the side of giving and helping than being detached and aloof. So again, it comes to discernment, viveka. And discernment means being present. And being present means not thinking. Certainly not with stories and drama. Because then you are already excluded from being present. And then all you'll see in the other is you. Is there anything anybody would like to say from up north? Is there anything else you'd like to say? You see, it's the same. India doesn't escape from this. And Bhagavan made light of it once, more than on one occasion. When, not all, there are genuine ones, but often when an Indian had domestic problems and he'd had his wife and children up to here, he would say to Bhagavan, I feel called to be a sannyasi, a sadhu. Do I have your blessing? In other words, do you bless this runaway divorce? I want to be a sadhu. To thine own self be true. Inside, you know it's a lie. You actually don't want to confront your wife one more day, or your children, or whatever. Sadhu. Why sadhu? Because they don't do anything. They just receive. And because they are holy men, lots of people want to give. And a sadhu can fall into that trap. And then he's not a sadhu anymore. He's a beggar. A true sadhu will not matter or not worry if something comes or something doesn't come. It's all in the hands of truth. And I was blessed with the experience of meeting such a sadhu. It was so touching. Some of you have heard the story of Flower Swami. He was a Swami dressed in ochre. He asked us if we would allow him to pick a few of these red hibiscus, because that's very popular in adorning your deity in India. And it was for no other reason but a deep love that he had for his God. It wasn't for any other reason. And he would not come for anything, but just for hibiscus. And then when he did get very ill and was taken into the house next door to mine to attend to whatever he needed, it happened to coincide when I also went very ill. And both of us were fed the same homeopathic medicine, same allopathic medicine, same Ayurvedic medicine, but it didn't work on him and it didn't work on me. Same nursing sister attending to both of us, and then the nursing sister came in one morning and she said, Flower Swami has passed away. And I said, that is something I have to witness. So, although I was a skeleton at that stage, I managed to walk the distance. And what impressed me so much, when they lowered his body into the pit, because Appa said, this is not a wandering monk. This is a special soul. It needs to be accorded the rights to somebody. I won't use the words he used, but a special somebody. And my goodness, when I approached the pit where his body was being prepared, he was probably, well, he was an old man. But his body was as young as a 16-year-old. It was amazing to see. It did not corrupt with age. Very much like, what was that lady's name? Bernadette, Sister Bernadette. When they lifted that saint up to transfer her to the Vatican, 10 years after she'd been buried, the body was immaculate. There was no smell, there was no odor, it was immaculate. And it would be the same with Bhagavan. When mind is gone, anything that limits or decays is also gone. And that's why saints always are buried. They're not cremated, because the body retains that same emanation and doesn't corrupt. So seeing this was so amazing, just by being one-pointedly with God, his God, which was Arunachala, Shiva. And the sanctity with which he held on to what was meaningful in his life. It spoke volumes about him. I don't know how we got onto that. Okay. But just think what it means to be a sadhu. If it's taken in the right spirit. You can pack your possessions into an empty suitcase and it will still be empty. Just be your bowl and one change of clothes. No planning. Where the next meal is coming from, where I'm going to shop. The way that doesn't fare for the wayfarer is no way to fare. And that is their living experience. They just give the power away to Arunachala, Shiva. And don't doubt. You can hand your power away and then doubt. And that one little doubt undoes everything. Hence the admonition, you're healed, get up, but don't look back on what was. In other words, back to your story. Because if you go back to your story, you recreate the story. That's because the power is within us. We just have to think of a story, and man, the whole thing is there again. And no producer in the film industry can do that. Just imagine when you're sleeping at night and you dream of Loftus Versfeld, Springboks playing the Irish. What have you created? What have you manifested in your universe? Thousands of people. All that scaffolding. You can even hear different conversations going on. How many people are in your dream? 40,000? 50,000? How many are dreaming? One. So consciousness is that which projects its universe. And if it's pure consciousness and not human awareness, it's very different. That's why I don't use the word consciousness when talking about humans. I say human awareness, as opposed to consciousness, which is my true nature. It's not a fly. the visitor. You're the host. It's looking where you put the marmalade. Mm-hmm.
We were on the topic of the tea that came to Ramadan because he wanted to do something with a certain motivation. He wanted to get away from a situation and be a sadhu.
Just hang on a second, Adrian. We're just turning the volume up. Have you turned it up? To start again because it was a bit soft.
Right. The devotee that went to Ramadan that wanted to be a sadhu and was looking for the blessing. We were on that topic, and I think there was something around the reason why we do something. It is to get away from something, or it is to because you want to, or you want to get away from that. I think the topic was there from before, so maybe we can just look at that topic. Our motivations for doing something, to get away from A or to go towards B.
It would depend where that urge is coming from, which arena it's coming from. If it's coming from Tamas, or if it's coming from Rajas, or if it's coming from Sattva, three different things altogether. So if there is the motivation to do something, or there isn't the motivation to do something, what I do with that motivation or lack of motivation, if I'm true to myself, will be unique for me. And it might not be anybody else's recipe. But this is where it's important to honor what's real for me. And this is getting in touch with conscience. There's something in me that knows. And there's something in me that only understands and thinks that it knows. There's something that knows, and there's something that thinks it knows. And conscience knows. Referred to as the still small voice, as one of many metaphors. It's that inner knowingness of the appropriateness of something or the inappropriateness of something for me. And if I'm true to me and my oxygen mask is on, my conscience is clear. If I'm being true to the highest ideal that mind presents to me, if I'm honoring that, and somebody says, but the real test, wada, okay, that's yours. Live by that. I know what's real and what touches me. And it might be difficult because what's touched me is a certain value that I don't really have. And maybe there is this still small voice that says, maybe you need to exercise these muscles for a change. Mental muscles, whatever. And if you do honor conscience, you are rewarded. If you honor conscience, you are rewarded with a sense of something positive. But just put it again in different words now.
I think it comes down to, from that devotee, he wanted to do one thing because his motivation was not in the right place. He was just wanting to get away from pain.
Mm-hmm.
So if I am doing things, then maybe the question is, how can I look at, am I doing it for getting away from A, or is it because I want to go towards B?
Well, that is where the self-honesty comes in, of listening to that still small voice, which comes down to conscience. Conscience is an innate knowingness of what is being asked of me. And I can ignore it. Like some lizards have two sets of eyelids, one very thin one. You don't want to see too clearly. And then you'll miss that still small voice. But if something niggles and I don't feel quite right, maybe it's calling me to do something which will take me out of my comfort zone. And if it takes me out of my comfort zone, that's generally a good sign. If it leads me into a comfort zone, that's generally not a good thing. Generally. There's always exceptions. But if it's taking me a little bit out of my comfort zone, it means my heart is there with other. Other is on center court more than the me. And if I ignore that, it won't sit nicely later. Because I wasn't true to conscience. I was pulling down a hard truth. And when we do that, and we pull it down into an arena that's not appropriate, it backfires. Sometimes seriously. To thine own self be true. Don't know if that answers that.
Yeah.
Okay, if the but comes, then just say.
I think the part that's still there is accessing the still small voice, or being available.
Accessing it. That requires intense effort of meditation, as Bhagavan was advocating. Do you have intense effort in your meditations? Don't answer that, because I know the answer. If there's intense effort, then maybe something can happen. But if I want to follow the path of least resistance, that's the call of the lower self. It's calling me. Hey, Tamas, come and lie down here in this field. There's no work problems here. And you just have to put your cap or your tin on the road and people pay you to do nothing. Man, this is the life. Now, when such a one wants to ask for blessings to become a sannyasa, I mean, the first thing that is seen right through is where it's coming from. And Bhagavan would say, I mean, in my words, sannyasa is not for you. You might say yet. Where you are needed is with your starving family to go and work so that they can have food. What's all this talk about sannyasa? Can you tell me when it's touched? It's a slow birth.
I'm going to be constipated, so it might take
Okay. So these are aspects of India and that philosophy that we don't encounter all that often in South Africa. So some of them might sound quite different, strange, even hard. But then to look at the consequences of what they are talking about. Rewarding clean effort, penalizing tamas. It's like punishing tamas. You don't want to do what you get punished for. Some must work now. And however you get them to work, through incentive schemes or whatever, to get them into clean rajas, you're doing them the greatest service. But not if they're walking the path of Bhagavan. They've been through rajas. They've fulfilled rajas. They've been the doer. They've really got that t-shirt and they can let it go now. But I first have to have the t-shirt before I can let it go. I can't sell a t-shirt that I don't have. So I was even accused of encouraging the ego with these bean planters. I said, my goodness, where are you coming from? You've branded the word ego and put it in a box and it's always evil. It's like Apollo 14. Now, the booster rocket is evil. Let's just dump that now and let's have a proper countdown. What's going to lift you out of Tamas? It's your ego. I can, I will, I want, and there's the power. That's the power of desire we've spoken about. That's called Icha Shakti. The power to desire is what brings results. If you have no desire, you've got a permanent puncture. Or you're in Sattva. Permanent flat tire. Don't want to do anything. Nothing. I am already that. Stillness. Albeit dead stillness. And linking this to Ramana Ashram, where so many sadhus are fed before the ashramites are fed from huge drums and the queues of sadhus. The sadhus and the sadhus. But because there's no such thing as discrimination in Bhagavan or his philosophy, you don't say, you don't look like, you give, and you give, and you give. It does have consequences in that it encourages me, if I'm getting all my meals free and I don't have to work, I can be a sadhu. It seems to be quite a nice way of feeding my body. Then I'm not a sadhu. I'm doing this so that I can. But a sadhu is one who has seen through a life of pursuing normal human pleasures and where that leads, and is so convinced and overcome by a desire for the one that he wants to dedicate his life to the one, and showing that by taking no heed for the morrow in Christ's words. No suitcase, no clothes, nothing. Take no heed for the morrow. I wonder where Christ got that from. He visited India. And that is why the sannyasa was originally venerated above the Brahman, the creme de la creme, because the Brahmins were still dependent on sadhu, gives everything away, and just wants to rely on faith. And if God doesn't feed me for 3 weeks, that's the way it is. If I'm a real sadhu. And if he gives me cold porridge from this house, or the best spicy dishes from that house, that's God's will. And if it's taken like that and believed as such, how free is your life? What burdens are you carrying? Okay, so that's India, and we're here in South Africa. So if there's anything relating to that, that's still left. And if you happen to be encountering somebody in need, whatever is your natural response will be pulled out of you. Despite all the philosophizing on how you should be and what Sattva is and what Vada is, to the non-self, you're true. I remember just coming off the freeway, coming into gardens. As I was coming around a corner, an elderly lady fell. And I put brakes on so hard, I nearly caused an accident behind me. But it was just prompted by immediately jumping out of the car and helping that lady get up again and to walk with her shopping bag to her house. And all the cars behind were hooting, "What the hell are you parking here for?" They couldn't see that there was a lady that was bleeding in her ankles. It wasn't premeditated. It's pulled out of you. So all this theory about detachment, you're confronted by something that pulls something out of you. To thine own self be true. Now you can relax. Okay, well, if there's nothing else, we can just be quiet for 10 minutes. Keeping the eyes closed, I might say a few words. If I look at the analogy that Christ used and the Vedas use, same thing. In the one, it's Indra's net that shows our total interdependence on everything that I am. And in Christian jargon, it's referred to not as Indra's net, but as the body of Christ. We are all the body of Christ. We are all jewels in Indra's net. It is the one life in all. And when all are for the one, and one is for the all, then neither the one nor the all can fall. So when I'm prompted spontaneously to help, I can hesitate because I've pulled down a hard truth. I've been reading about how wonderful detachment is, but it's a nonsense. Before I know it, I'm helping. And then the thought comes, oh, now I'm being a do-gooder. No, you were prompted to do that. It just came. Maybe there will come a time when it might be different. But until then, can I just be true to myself? And if I can't be true to myself, then how can I be true to anything or anyone else? If my own oxygen mask is not on, but I still want to be a do-gooder, then I'll create more havoc than help. Can I let the karta go until conscience may pull it back? But just being true. Not to my thoughts and my thinking, but to consciousness. That is my nature, that I have to discover. And maybe that's all that's meant by enlightenment. You now see that the power is within you. And you experience that. Can I open my eyes?